Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we just got back from co-op and I needed something quick and easy to make. Instead of resorting to like takeout or going out, we're making chicken cheesesteaks, and I actually had to update photos on my site, so that's what we're doing. They are delicious and they take less than 30 minutes. We also have a ground beef version, which I'll link below, but let's get started. I can't wait to show you how easy it is. I'm gonna get started by making our ground chicken. I have two 1 pound packages. Now sometimes I'll see bigger packages and I love when those go on sale, but I didn't see any at my local supermarket, so I just grabbed two of these 1 pound packages. Now if you look at my site, this is from 2011, so this recipe was way overdue for new photos. I'm taking some avocado oil and just swirling it around in my cast iron skillet. I have it on a medium heat and we're getting it nice and hot before we put in our ground chicken. You could also do it with ground turkey, or like I do with my ground beef ones, you could also use ground beef. But for this recipe, I just wanted it to be a little lighter, so that's why we're doing some ground chicken. And it comes together really easily. So I just plop those into the cast iron skillet that's nice and heated up. And then because I did have some chicken on the counter, you know, when you go to the supermarket, they have that all over. There's like sometimes spillage, so I do like to wipe down my counter or anything I touched. And then I'm gonna get a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon and we're gonna measure in our ingredients. I always like to measure and then I can always adjust to taste after. And we're gonna go in with 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. This is a coarser salt than your regular table salt. I love kosher salt. I feel like it gives a better flavor for certain recipes, so that's what we're using for this. I just wanted to make sure I used that and not sea salt. And then we're going in with our granulated garlic. Again, this is a little bit coarser than powdered, so we're going in with 1.5 teaspoons of that. Now, if you don't like garlic, you can omit that, but I think it adds a lot of flavor to our chicken cheesesteaks. Then I'm gonna go in with 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of black pepper. I usually go for 1/2 teaspoon, and then if I need to add more, I add more. Same with like the salt, the garlic. Whenever you're adding stuff, you can always add more, but you can't take out. Grandma always said that, and she was so right. I'll never forget that one time she actually told me, said, don't add too much salt to your mashed potatoes, and I added so much that the mashed potatoes were so non-palatable that I could not eat them, but I had to prove Grandma wrong, so I ate them and they were the worst mashed potatoes I ever ate in my life. Now I'm going to make sure that the chicken is mashed down and all of it is on the surface of the cast iron skillet because we want to make sure it's cooking nicely. I'm going to also make sure that I don't brown it too much, because I feel like if I brown it too much, it gets a gamey flavor. I find that I like browning and getting the Maillard reaction more with ground beef, or even if I'm doing like a ground chicken burger. But for something like this chicken cheesesteak, I don't like that flavor, so we just kind of lightly brown it, but we do make sure it's fully cooked. I'm also going to be making some homemade French fries. That's something I've been doing a lot lately. I found that I was relying too much on prepared foods like frozen French fries, and yes, while it's a great convenience food, I did rely on it way too much, and I just felt like we need to be eating more fresh potatoes. So I've been buying some russet potatoes. I did grow some. My russets didn't get so big, so I'm pretty upset about that. They're just not as big as I would like. They're perfect for like roasting, but they were not like as big as I wanted for French fries. And one thing I've been wanting to do is order a bunch of potatoes from Azure Standard. So they have 50-pound bags of potatoes, or should I say boxes, and I'm like, I feel like I can do that with fries. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We'll do it together one day. We'll just make a ton of potatoes for the freezer, whether it's like cubed diced potatoes or French fries. I just don't want to rely so much on prepackaged food as much as I do. Like I will go to the farm and I will get some string beans and things like that, but their potatoes, they don't have that great of potatoes for picking. So that's why I think I'm going to try doing with the Azure Standard. These ones were from Whole Foods. They were nice and big, so I did grab these. And that's another thing I like about getting them from Azure. They're organic, but I've never bought their produce, so I am anxious to see what you guys think about that. So let me know if you've ever tried that. I'm going to put these in the air fryer. I tossed them in a little bit of avocado oil. For the fries, I think I cooked them at 450. My air fryer has like this max crisp thing, so that's what I push, the max crisp. And then for like 13 to 15 minutes, I like to just coat them in the olive oil once more at the end and put a little bit of salt and cook it for another minute. What I do is I shake it maybe twice during the cook time. Now we're just mashing again that ground beef, making sure it is like nice bite-sized chunks and really broken up. Now, if you wanted, you could probably use ground chicken for this. That is the chicken breast, but I prefer to have a little bit of fat. So when I do my ground beef ones, we usually do 80 to 85%. This is already leaner than that. This is 93%. So it is gonna stick to the pan a little bit if your cast iron skillet is not seasoned well. I made a ton of food for myself and my sister's freezer, and I put some tomato sauce in this, so I kind of broke the seal on my cast iron, and I have to redo that, and I will be doing that this week. And I'm just making sure this is, again, once more, just covering the entire bottom. My husband just got home, so I'm gonna say hello. And then we're gonna pick out our favorite toppings, which is banana peppers. I'm using Cooper Sharp, and I forgot I didn't have a mic on, and I was about to tell you my favorite rolls are Amoroso, but you guys can't hear me, so now you can because I'm doing voiceover. But Amoroso rolls are my go-to. Now we're gonna put on our cheese. I like to use Cooper Sharp. We are no longer dairy free, which is incredible. God has blessed us so greatly with our children, and we did have some trials and all of those with their food allergies. We did OIT with our youngest because he did not outgrow his allergies, and we are so blessed that it took about, I want to say 10 to 11 months for him to overcome and graduate OIT. So he is eating dairy. He can tolerate 8 ounces per meal, which is incredible, going from not even being able to touch a surface without needing an EpiPen. So this is huge for us. We are loving it. He loves ice cream. I mean, I will say we've been very blessed also that there are so many alternatives. So now we're just gonna let that cheese melt with the ground chicken, and it is melting beautifully, and then we're gonna mix it in nicely. Now, if you wanted, you could use a different cheese like a provolone, a mozzarella, a regular Land O'Lakes American is something I used to use when I grew up. And then there's also like some people like to do Swiss cheese. You can even use, I know some people like to use Cheese Whiz or something like that, like a cheese sauce. I feel like the Cooper Sharp is a great go-to cheese for us, and I really like it for cheesesteaks especially. So we're just gonna mix that up and let that cheese really melt. I don't want it to get on my pan too much. So what I'm doing is just making sure I break it up into the meat and then just letting it kind of cook in there. Now, if you wanted, you can thin this out with a little bit of liquid, maybe some avocado oil or some milk, but this is perfect. It's not going to crumble and fall out of our sandwich, which I love. So now I did taste it and it was perfect. It doesn't need any seasoning. Now we're just going to go ahead and stuff it into our Amoroso rolls. Again, you could use whatever rolls you want, but I personally like Amoroso rolls. They are easy to pick up at a local supermarket for me, and they're just really good. I don't know if they're just maybe an East Coast thing or if they're not on your area, but if they are, give them a try. They're my favorite. And then you have to roll it up. I do this with all of my sandwiches. If it's a sandwich like a hoagie, a sub, whatever you call it, we call them hoagies here in Jersey. I like to roll them right up, and it kind of like seals everything in. I've always done it. I used to work at this place called Wawa. I'm pretty sure everybody knows it now, but when I worked there, it was pretty much only in this area. Now it's in Florida, which is crazy. So I'm just using parchment paper. Now, some people like to use tin foil. I'm using these parchment paper sheets that I buy on Amazon. I really like them. They're perfect for baking and stuff, and I use them for stuff like this. So what I do is I just literally stuff them up, roll them up, and you don't have to keep them in there, but if you wanted to, you could. So if I was like sending it to my husband for work, like a hoagie, I do just keep it in that parchment paper. And then once I'm rolled all of them up, they're ready to serve. My family really likes them like this. Now, if I didn't roll them up, they are not as tight and compact. It's not like the meat's gonna fall all over, but I don't know, it just does something magical. It makes it like the perfect sandwich. So here it is close up. I'm gonna tear this one in half. And now it's not as greasy as my ground beef ones because we're using chicken. It's nice and cheesy. We use that Cooper Sharp cheese. Just like my regular cheesesteaks, I like to put the banana peppers on there. The Amoroso rolls are my favorite to use for this. They're super soft. You can use homemade rolls too, but Amoroso is like my go-to. And then the Cooper Sharp cheese with the ground chicken. You could use a ground turkey too, but I like the ground chicken. I use the Purdue, like 93%, I think it is. So good. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. I want to thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching again. Take care and God bless you.